Hey everyone, so we're approaching 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, so we're very excited. So we're going to be giving away 2 prizes. One signed copy of my Opening Closed Guard book, and another winner is going to be winning a signed copy of a poster of the film. So all you got to do is subscribe and comment below Drysdale giveaway for a chance to win one of these 2 prizes.
Gentlemen, your referee Mylon Ayers calls a stop to the fight in just 1 minute 42 seconds in the very first round for your winner by knockout, Khalil Rountree.
I've lost a good handful of fights just because I wasn't there mentally. A good handful of people laughed at me, a good handful of people supported me, but I did what I said I was going to do, and I switched everything. I stopped smoking cigarettes, I stopped eating like red meat, all these things. I completely shifted my life, and I became a brand new person in a year pretty much, and I feel like that's when my life really started. We're really good at showing how, how athletic and how tough and how like indestructible, whatever it is that we try to show through fight cameras and through, through this world. But I think it's definitely time for us to show a different side.
Hey everyone, Robert Drysdale here. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. I have a very special guest here with us today, Khalil Rountree. Khalil, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, me and Khalil met, what season was it? It was Joanna versus Claudia Gadelia.
Yep, season 23 Ultimate Fighter.
There we go. So I was the jiu-jitsu coach for Joanna's team, and Khalil was one of the fighters on there. Good times, lots of good stories, good memories.
Absolutely.
And Khalil, man, you made it to the UFC, and then tell us what's been going on with Khalil the last 5 years, because you were in Vegas. You're originally from Vegas.
Yeah. Right after the Ultimate Fighter, I stayed in Vegas for a couple of years, and then I just got some crazy travel bug, and then I left the country. I was in Europe for a while, went to Brazil, and then all of that stuff led me to Thailand, and then I stayed there for the past 3 years. And man, tons of stories, tons of good times, but now I'm back.
So what was your favorite place to train at?
Thailand.
100%. So it wasn't just like, because like Thailand, you think of the food, the weather, the people are super friendly. Like, it's a great touristic environment.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Thai boxing there is second to none.
It's next level. So it was my favorite place because of that, like the food, the people, the culture, and then the training.
Yeah.
So the way that the Nak Muays, the Muay Thai fighters train there is crazy. They run 10 miles a day, like they cut weight the day of the fight, all of these things, but the guys were so cool, so calm. Yeah. The culture, the Muay Thai culture is what really, like, I thought I was going to live there forever.
Yeah. What do you think is, like, I know they train the Muay Thai is a little bit, the striking is a little bit different because it's a little bit upright, right? Like their stance is a little bit different. How did you adapt to, because I've seen you spar, you had like a very wide stance, very articulate, very long, right? A little bit different to traditional Thai style. How did you adapt when you went over there? Did you have to make some changes, and coming back, are you making any changes?
When I first got there, they completely told me that everything I was doing was wrong, right? Because in Thailand, it's like Muay Thai. There's no MMA,
it's
really.
Very dogmatic. Like they do it in a certain way. You have to do it that way.
Exactly. But it's for a reason. So I was always thinking, like, I don't want to stand straight up because of takedowns, all these things. And then they started teaching me about, like, strength and balance. And although these guys are standing upright, like, you try to push them over, it's almost impossible. They're so good at keeping their balance and being strong. So it took months of kind of building this new structure, and now I enjoy it. And now I have, like, I can mix both, right? Like, I can stand up straight and I can work on my balance, my power, my length, teeps, all these things. But then if I need to switch it up, I can go back to, like, my lower, kind of wider stance. It just gave me more tools.
It's interesting to notice, like, how the culture there is so fighting oriented. I wonder why that happens, because it happens in certain pockets of the world. You get like they just, that they really go, like, if you go to Dagestan or Chechen, they're absolutely obsessed with, like, wrestling, sambo, judo, and so on, right? In Thailand, what do you think about the culture? Because they're such friendly people.
So what I've learned just from an experience, just from being there, is that the kids from a very young age, they see the Muay Thai fighters running in the street. And everybody there, like, whoever's a fighter, usually they're doing it to just better themselves. They don't want to work and sell food on the corner, or like just certain things like that. They're like, no, I want to fight.
Yeah.
So that's how they make their money, and they start from as young as 5 years old, fighting like professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's what keeps the country alive. Everybody there, like, Muay Thai is almost like a religion. There's
Yeah.
guys that go to the stadiums every single day and bet on fights and make a living off of it. So, yeah.
Did you have any fights out down there or no?
I tried. I didn't.
Yeah. You didn't make it to Lumpini?
I went to all the fights. I went to the Lumpini. I went to Raja. I even had a promoter like trying to book me a fight,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't because of my contract with the UFC. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, they told me like, if you do that, it's like we'd have to let you go. So I was
I
like,
think it'd be cool just to say that you had a professional Thai fight in
oh man,
in
yeah.
Thailand, right?
So I had it lined up to where like they were willing to give me a title fight right off the bat, like heavyweight WBC title fight. I was like, are you kidding me? Like the green belt with Muhammad Ali and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody. I'm like, yeah, I want to do it. So I think maybe one day I'll still be able to do
Yeah,
it. Hopefully.
That's fun, man. No, it's good to have you back. So you came back to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
You resigned a new contract with the UFC.
Yeah.
And now what's next, man? What's coming up?
Oh, so it feels like a restart. Like I feel like coming back home, I'm reminded of like my past. I'm reminded of my family, why I even started this stuff in the first place. So I have a new hunger, a new motivation that I haven't had in a really long time. And so now the focus is to just get to the top. And before even getting to the top, internally and just mentally and physically, I want to feel good, man. I want to feel like a machine. So I'm taking care of my body better, switched my diet a bunch, started reading more, just really just trying to be more whole as a person, as a fighter, be stronger.
I think you just touched on something that's very underrated when it comes to fighting, because someone from the outside is always thinking, well, they're clearly athletic, they're very courageous, they're very technical, a lot of hard physical work, but not a lot is said about this right here, which is the most important thing. Anyone who has fought will tell you, like, if this right here isn't right, it doesn't matter how hard you train, it doesn't matter how talented you are, or what camp you're from, right? Like, this has got to be very, very finely tuned.
It's got to be number one. It's got to be a number one. If it's not there, nothing else is there. Yeah. I've lost a good handful of fights just because I wasn't there mentally, or maybe I was just like going through a lot of stuff during training camp and emotionally, mentally drained, and then I show up to fight in front of a bunch of people, and I just don't have it. So that's number one.
Yeah, you just mentioned something emotionally drained. Like when you saw a fighter's not supposed to have emotion, right? But a fighter, like, you're human, like, you're highly emotional. There's no way around it. Like, how can you not be? You're about to step into a cage where someone has been training their entire lives to kill you if he has to.
Yeah.
Like, you're an obstacle to his ambition. Just like you have that ambition to be the champ, that guy has the exact same ambition. He'll do anything to win, right?
100%.
So, like, how could you not be scared? How could you not be emotional? How could you not be nervous? But it's one of those things where you're taught to hide it so much. And you can hide it, you should. You shouldn't show your opponent. I believe that. You should never show your opponent any sign of weakness, right?
Exactly.
But the reality of it is that, if emotionally you're not put together, like if things are missing, it is very hard for everything else to work.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've noticed that, like, I've seen fighters, they do like this with their career, and then, something happens in their personal life. And it's not always the camp. It's not always the training partners, or it's not an injury. It's not the coach. It's stuff that's happening at home.
Exactly.
That's messing up his career, and people don't completely underestimate the importance of having that emotional support.
You got to have a balanced life. We have to be in control of all of our environments, right? And ourselves in our environments. Yeah. I think I forgot what I was gonna say, but the mental part is definitely number one. Like you've got to be there. You've got to be clear every single time.
I think some of the best fighters I've seen weren't necessarily the best technicians or the most athletic, but this right here was very, like, it was put together. Like, that machine right there was working exactly the way it's supposed to. And it's not just tactics. It's not just the emotional control. It's almost like you're doing it. You mentioned a second ago, you're talking about, like, why I started training, right? That's why you come back to Vegas. Like, your motivations have to be the right ones, too.
Yeah.
I think something happens with fighters when they're doing things for the wrong reasons. They still might be able to perform because they have all that baggage, those years of training. They are, exceptionally talented and they're training hard. But something happens if they're not doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
Right? I truly believe that you fight better when your heart's in the right place.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And another thing with the mental training, you have to prep yourself during the training too, right? So what I've been doing lately is just if I'm doing strength conditioning or if I'm doing sparring, I'm putting myself in the worst positions and analyzing it while while I'm training, while I'm like, this sucks, and then like, okay, what am I gonna do when this thought comes up? I'm tired, I can't breathe. Okay, how are you gonna handle this in the future? And starting to kind of use those as building blocks and trigger points. So when it happens in the fight, I'm used to doing it every day in training.
Yeah, because otherwise it's something that happens, like this element of self-boycott that everyone, I think, struggles with at some point in their life, right? Like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable of this, you can't do. And it's almost like you have to relive those situations, that like what's going to, those tough moments where you're going to make or break, right? And you have to live that on the mats so often that you know what the answer is every single time. Because the last thing you want to be doing is in the heat of battle is be wondering.
Questioning yourself.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. It's the worst thing ever.
Yes.
It's the worst thing ever. I've had fights where I've gotten hit or I've gotten taken down or something, and maybe it's something that I didn't drill in training, and I'm sent straight into that like questioning myself mode, survival mode, and it's not a good place to be in a fight.
Yeah, I always say like you're better off with like less technique and zero hesitation than perfect technique hesitating.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
I like
because
that.
I guess sometimes people like overthink things so much, or that question is going on, and it messes up everything. Like you're thinking if you should do something, and your best moments in a fight are always when you don't think.
Yeah, and that's when the
body
knockouts happen, or even like submissions and stuff too, right? When you just kind of surrender and let it flow. But you got to be in the right mindset to be able to surrender in the chaos of fighting.
I think that's very underrated how important the psychology is behind the preparation. And the difficult thing, it's easy to train, like let's say you have like cardio issues, right? It's easy to fix. You know what to do.
Yeah.
We'd say like, let's say you have to work on your left hook and your right hand. Well, it's easy to work on. You know what to do. You have to work on your self-esteem or your confidence, like getting rid of that hesitation. That's so much harder to work on.
It's really hard. I deal with it to this day. I've had like 9-10 UFC fights, but the fighting thing in general being so pretty new to me because I used to be this overweight kid who came into fighting. So I'm here on the biggest martial arts platform of the world, still dealing with confidence and like self-esteem, and like I'm still trying to build myself to believe in myself to even be where I'm at today. It happens in training. You know, it happens in training. That's where I gain it in training, and then I take it out into the fight.
You know what I tell my students a lot of times is like winning is a habit. You got to get used to winning.
Yeah.
That's where your confidence comes from. You win a match, and you win again, and you win again, and it becomes a habit. Next thing you know, you don't know anything else. So when you have to fight, it's like, this is where I belong. I belong with my hand raised at the end, versus like if you're in a pattern of like you're accepting losing all the time, well, that becomes a habit too, right? So I always like, you have to get used to winning on the mats. And I mean, there's a thing about the mats, if you're excessively competitive all the time, the injury ratio goes up. Like, you got to find that happy balance. But I like to think that like you have to practice however you want to fight, like whatever mindset you have. It's almost like you have to prepare yourself on the mats. So it's important that when we go against each other, like we're trying to beat each other. That's what's going to prepare us both. Yeah. Instead of having that, you can't be too flowy about your practice either. No, you got to find that balance, right? So it's that healthy competition.
Yeah,
like you have to go to war to prepare your mind for like, okay, I'm ready to win now.
I really enjoy that jiu-jitsu schools and just jiu-jitsu culture. There's a lot of competitions, right? Yeah. Like as MMA fighters, we only get to compete, maximum 4 times a year. Yeah. So getting those competition nerves firing off, it's a bit hard. And then you don't want to do it in the gym, right? Because then you're kind of like that rude guy that's just like taking it out on everybody.
It's hard to create that culture where you can go to war with your friends every day and no one's going to get upset. And not only that, but have enough trust that knowing that I can really try to beat you, but deep down I'm never trying to hurt you, right? And it's hard to find that balance. That's why the culture in the gym, that's another thing that's very underestimated, is how important it is that you walk in an environment and you look around, you know that not a single person in this room wants to hurt me. Yeah. Not a single person in this room is rooting against me when I fight. Because I've been in places, we're not going to mention names here, where you walk in and you're walking around, you look around the room and you go, I think half the people in this room will be happy if I lose.
You look at your shirt like, do I have a target somewhere? Yeah, 100%. That's not a good feeling to have.
And that's the other thing. You walk in there without that support, knowing that, you know, people at home are necessarily rooting for you. I don't know. I like to think that when I'm training somewhere, like every single person in that room wants me to do well. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that support is part of kind of what I do it for, right? Before I didn't really play sports or anything like that, but when I started fighting and having a gym full of people who were like supporting me when it was time to fight, or if I'm doing my one-on-one sparring matches, things like that, and just having people cheering, like it's a good feeling, man. Yeah. It's a really good feeling.
So going back to something you said a second ago, you mentioned something about, you know, like why we do this. And I think everyone's got different motivations, but going back, rewinding, you mentioned you were a kid, you were overweight.
Yeah.
What do you think were the motivations that played into you becoming a professional fighter?
So fighting itself, it was pretty much my first sport. So like as soon as I had my first MMA match, that was the first time that I really competed.
Really?
Yeah, like when I was a kid, I played baseball at 7 years old, 8 years old, but that's not really competition. In high school, I tried out for the volleyball team, but I never got to play because I had bad grades. So it took until like when I had my first fight, that was when I really felt that competition. Yeah. And then it felt great. I was like, wow, for the first time, there's people cheering for me. There's people, you know, just like supporting me. I'm doing something. I'm making something of myself. And then I had my first loss 3 fights into my amateur journey, and then I realized like where I made the mistake. I was like, I got too ahead of myself. I thought I was like super good, all these things, and then that's when I decided I'm going to take it more serious, and I think that I want to make this like a job. I want to be a professional, and so I just started to take my training more seriously and just push myself harder.
So you won your first fight.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So how nervous were you? And what was that? Because that's an unusual thing. Like you had very little competition experience. Because especially in the U.S., like kids grow up practicing either football, baseball, like competitively.
Yeah.
I mean, more than other countries. Like it's a very common theme in the U.S. and in your upbringing. So you had a very little competition experience. I mean, your very first big it's in a cage fighting.
In a cage
that's
fighting.
That's gotta be terrifying.
Yeah, in a Vegas casino. I was terrified. I threw up in the back before I even walked out. My brother, who's always in my corner, he was there with me, and he's telling me like, you know, you got this. Like he's super supportive. The coaches that were with me, everyone had to remind me like, you know, we're with you. You turn around. Like it was almost like walking a baby. You know, it was really, really bad. But then I remember once the cage door closed, the whole time I can hear and feel my heart beat. I can hear myself breathing. I was a nervous wreck. But then as soon as it was go time, I just remember everything just stopping, and it was just like me and this guy one-on-one, and I was like, oh,
it's a beautiful,
it's a surreal experience.
It's a very surreal.
It's a really surreal experience.
You know, I always say that, you know, this is, you know, it's such an intense experience. It's difficult for people to describe, but I know the feeling of like almost having to be pushed in, because I feel like there's a part of me, and I have no shame admitting this, like I almost like wanted to get injured the week before the fight. I was so scared. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
Just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, but you push yourself. You go in there, and when you do it, you're so proud of yourself. You're like, man, I got to do this again. You know, but I think it really is says something about the ability to overcome your fears, right? Because if you wouldn't be that nervous if you weren't terrified, and that, I think, to me, that adds to the merit of it. And you also discover something about yourself when you're willing to confront that. You know, like you've seen this as well. Like you see the guy that walks in the gym, you know, big, you know, bodybuilder, like acts all tough.
Something to prove.
Yes, and he's gotten away with being an alpha his whole life because everyone's terrified of him. So he never really had to test himself, because from the time he was a little kid, he was always the bully. Yeah. Right? And then you throw him on the mats and he gets triangled by the 13-year-old. And then like, and it's true. Like it's just a reality check. Like I thought I was like the toughest guy in the room. And then you also see the opposite. You see the guy that's like very socially awkward, has no confidence whatsoever, and he has no idea. He has the heart of a lion. Yeah. But you throw him on the mat, you throw him in competition. It's like, well, what happened there?
Yeah, what happened? Where'd you come from?
He had no idea he had that, right? Yeah. This is why I always urge people, like, you have to compete. I mean, if not MMA is for everyone, okay, whatever. But if you're into martial arts, throw yourself in competition. Yeah. Because you don't know what's in there.
Exactly. And until that your back's up against the wall. I think it's a really good, it's just really good for the character of everyone from kids to adults. Just that competition, the competitive spirit. Back's up against the wall. What are you going to do? How are you going to react? The
You don't
worst,
know.
you never know.
You don't know.
You have to put yourself in that position. And I think for me, I know every time I compete, I grow as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whether win or lose, I come out a different person with a lot of new learnings and outlooks, and I won't do this again, and I should have done that. But it's
There's
a really
growth.
good feeling.
And I think at the end, like more, I mean, obviously everyone gets a kick out of having your hand raised. I imagine winning a UFC belt must be an incredible feeling. But I think that what you take from the journey is that right there, is the growth, right? Because that right there is something that marks you, it scars you. Like it changes you in a very positive way. Even your losses do. They suck when you, but at some point you look back and you go, man, I needed that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like you take something from it. It's like, and the end result is always growth, which I think ultimately is the most important prize, because I don't care how many medals you win or how many belts you win. At some point, you get over it and you move on, right? You probably don't think about your first victories as much as you do about what's, it gets old after a while, but the growth is something you really, carry with you.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people and fans and myself, when I watch fighting or any, combat sport or martial art, I'd like to see the growth. I want to see the guy that I watched, a few months ago. I want to see what's new. I want to see what he's been working on, how he's grown. That's something that I always look for whenever I'm watching fighting.
So this is something I have a hard time wrapping my head around. Your first time you really immersed yourself into something was MMA. Why MMA?
Okay, so before MMA was, for me, it was music. I was a music guy growing up.
Okay.
I played guitar, bass, drums, keyboard, anything that made a sound.
Okay.
I dabbled in it. And every Christmas I'd get a new instrument. Like that's what I would ask for. So
you knew discipline already. You knew the price it took.
Yeah.
If you
To get good at something, you got to sit down, you got to focus, you got to dedicate your time and energy to it. So at 19, I got to a point where I was just like really heavy, man, 300 pounds, 19, smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I mean, it was just really bad, really unhealthy. But just because of my childhood and how I grew up and just feeling almost like a black sheep, I had a lot of anger. And so I remember just seeing The Ultimate Fighter on TV, seeing UFC and Pride on TV with my brother. And I connected to the guys. I was like, these guys are pissed off like me. What are they doing? What is this? Yeah. And then I saw it and it looked fun to me and I just wanted to try it. And then as soon as I tried it, I enjoyed it. I felt this like sense of peace after training because I gave everything I got. I was so mad, just going crazy on the bag in the gym. And then I was like, okay, I'm coming back. Like that's how it started.
It's like an outlet. I think you need it. Like I think people, whether they are willing to admit it or not, are aggressive. Like there's an aggressive animal in there. You got to do something with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can bottle it in, and then you get angry.
Yeah.
And you smoke 2 packs of cigarette a day, and you get fat.
Trying to cover it up.
Because but there's something in there that needs to express itself, right?
Exactly.
And it must be. I got lucky because I found what I loved at 16. You found it at 19, but if you don't find that, man, that's got to be brutal because it builds up. Like you need to express that competitively.
Yeah.
I think people are naturally competitive. Like, and when you don't, it stays in there, right? It doesn't really manifest itself in any way.
100%. And I think one thing I realized too is I was afraid of that. I was afraid of that anger inside. I didn't know what to do with it. So, and I was always the type of person where I would never take it out on someone else. I was always like, I never wanted to hurt anyone else. So I would just like, everything would be internal.
Yeah.
I'd go in my room, shut my door, blast music, stay out, don't talk to me. And when I started seeing UFC and that like there was a place for that. For me, my place was like music, metal shows, hardcore shows, go in the mosh pit. We can fight each other and pick each other up. And then I'd be like, all right, I got it out for the day. But when I found out that I can do something very similar every day or as much as I wanted to, that's really when I was like, okay, I think this is made for me.
So you saw this is my identity. Like it's one of those things like you saw yourself in the cage. You wanted to be like those guys.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a very common thing. People see something that they identify themselves with and it's a very quick calling. Like I remember when I found jiu-jitsu, it wasn't like one of those things. I wonder if I knew, man.
Yeah,
I just knew. It's like, that's it. It's like love at first sight.
Exactly.
I think people, like everyone has that. I truly believe that every human on this planet has that, whether they're going to find it or not, because it's not always fighting.
Yeah.
It could be just music, or it could be like a million different things, right? Whatever it is that you're into. But like, I can't imagine like not having that sort of object of meaning, right? Something that means something to you on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And it can really express you.
Yeah, I really want to find ways to be able to help bring that out of people, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are sitting. I get messages all the time, people that are just like, I don't know what to do with my life.
Yeah.
I don't know what I love. I don't know. And I want to be able to help in some type of way. I think that'd be amazing.
Like, I'm not saying, we're biased here because we're martial artists, so like we're always going to say that martial arts is like, this is the best way. And it probably really is.
Yeah.
But like, I think the biggest problem people have, and I hear this all the time from students, being a gym owner, is that they're terrified of walking through the door. I always tell people that your most difficult session in your life is the first one.
The first one.
Because it's nothing to do with the session itself, which you might not even break a sweat.
Yeah.
But just walking through the door in a terrifying environment.
It's like a first day of school.
Yes.
You're like, oh, are they looking at me?
They don't know what to expect, right? Because they assume, you're an animal. They think I'm an animal. They're going to come, they're going to hurt me. They're going to, I'm going to be bleeding.
Yeah.
And, they're going to throw me off outside the cage or whatever. And you show up to a gym and the environment is a total, for the most part, it's a total opposite. You have like a very, friendly, and everyone's chill, and no one really is. I mean, for the most part, people are very friendly in gyms, right?
Yeah, for the most part, definitely more friendly than not friendly.
I mean, there's professional gyms where things can get very competitive. You don't always get that sort of camaraderie, but that's why I always say, like, the culture in the gym is the most important thing. The culture is healthy, everyone grows.
Yeah, I've never been to a gym where like the guy who comes in on the first day gets bullied or beat up.
Yes,
I mean, it's like it's more welcoming, because I think for me, I was a kid who, I got trash talked and bullied and stuff, and I think most fighters have been in that position. Like growing up, or like have been bullied or dealt with that, which is what led them to martial arts. So I think it's more, we welcome people for the first time.
Because I was that kid. Like I got bullied because I'm an American citizen, but I grew up in Brazil, so people were constantly picking on me over there, and I'm almost like thankful for it, believe it or not. Like looking back, because it's terrible when you're living it, but after a while, like looking back, and I go, I'm actually really happy I went through that.
It made you who you are.
Yes, it's like, because that's what gave me the kick up the butt to like overcome it.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, it's obviously it's a complicated issue, but like I think some degree of it actually might help bring something out. But like, for example, we have moms that come to the gym. Same thing, terrified, very insecure, low self-esteem. It's not for me. I don't want to be sweaty. And you never know. Sometimes there's like the mom and the husband coming in, like the kid quits like after a year.
Yeah.
The dad, like, it's not for him. The mom's the one that sticks to it. You never know what your calling is unless you give it a try.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you do a really good job. I've trained here a couple of times. You do a really good job at like maintaining a good energy and atmosphere inside of your gym. So I think that definitely helps a lot.
You know what? I think this way, like if you're in a place that you enjoy being, it's easier to learn because you can relax.
Yeah.
And I know that I can show you something because I know that you would help me. And when the situation is reversed, like you're never scared of sharing.
Yeah.
So I think you have a more open forum of exchanging information. Plus, it's if you're in a happy environment, any happy environment, it doesn't have to be a gym. I think you learn faster. I think it's easier to go somewhere. Like it's going to a work environment where you hate your boss and you hate every single one of your workmates.
It's constant resistance.
Yes, there's studies on this. You're actually less productive. But if you're in an environment where you enjoy being there, everyone's happy, and it's a very friendly environment, you're actually more productive. When I look at a gym, I think it's the same. I think the overall level of the gym is raised when you have a happy, friendly, welcoming environment that you want to go to, right?
Yeah.
I normally refer to the gym as like the third place. Like first place is home.
First place home.
Got to go home.
Yeah.
Second place is work. Got to go to work. The gym is where you choose to be. No one's forcing you to be there, right? So it has to be that sort of environment.
I like that. And do you instill that in the trainers and things as well? That they're trying to pass on that same mentality?
You try to create that sort of environment, like where, I think the culture is one of those things where if it's well established, it kind of people just absorb it, right?
Yeah.
If you have like a kids program and it's a mess, new kids come in, what do they see? Oh, I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
That's what they learn. But if they walk in a kids program and everyone's in line, and then it's like a little army.
Yeah, they're like,
they walk in, they go, okay. And you don't even have to teach them much. They watch, they observe everyone else. If everyone else is in line, they kind of follow that system automatically. Like humans are very quickly to adapt to what the rules.
The surroundings. Like they look around, especially on the first day, right? You're like, if you're already nervous, you're like, you don't want to stand out, so you kind of observe what's happening, and then you get in line. I know for me, I always wanted that as a kid. Like I always wanted to join a martial arts school just because there was like discipline, and I think I go off topic, but I think that's a really good thing to have.
Hey guys, you just finished watching part 1 of my chat with Khalil Rountree. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. Guys, make sure that if you enjoy the content, like, comment, subscribe, share, let your friends know about the channel. Any suggestions you guys have, anything you guys want to learn about, talk about, leave a comment below. We really appreciate it.